There is a moment, and I think most people watching this know exactly what I'm talking about, where you look down at your arms, or your neck, or the inside of your elbows, and the skin looks different to how it used to. Not wrinkled the way you might have expected, not sagging in the way you see in photographs. Something else, thinner, looser, a little crinkled, like tissue paper that's been scrunched and smoothed back out again. That is crepey skin. And if you're over 60, there's a very good chance you're already seeing it somewhere on your body, even if nobody has given it a name until now. Here is what I need you to know before we go any further. The standard advice for this: moisturize, stay hydrated, use sunscreen. Those things are not wrong, but they are addressing the surface of a problem that starts several layers deeper, which is why, for most people, those things make very little visible difference. There are three things, not expensive, not complicated, that target what is actually happening structurally underneath your skin. And the research behind them is not from wellness blogs. It is from peer-reviewed clinical trials. 2 of them are things you can start today. 1 of them is free. Stay with me. By the end of this video, you will have a protocol that you can begin tonight.
Hi, I'm Suki Yamamoto, wellness specialist. And before we get into the 3 things, I want to spend a few minutes on the mechanism, because I think when you understand what is actually happening inside the skin after 60, the 3 things make complete sense. They stop feeling like random tips and start feeling like a logical response to a specific problem.
And I'm Marcus Reid, your senior health coach. No fads, no miracle claims. Just what the research actually shows and what it looks like in practice. Let's get into it. So, Suki, crepey skin. Let's start at the beginning. What is actually happening? Because I think the word aging gets used as if it explains everything, when it doesn't really explain anything.
You're right that it doesn't explain anything. So let me give you the specific mechanisms. Your skin has 2 primary structural proteins. The first is collagen. Collagen is what gives skin its firmness, its resistance to pressure. Think of it as the scaffolding. The second is elastin. Elastin is what gives skin its ability to snap back into place after it's been stretched or compressed. Think of it as the springs inside that scaffolding. In your 20s and 30s, your body was producing both of these proteins continuously. The old proteins degraded, new ones replaced them, and the balance was maintained. Beginning in your mid-30s, that balance starts to shift. Production slows down. Degradation continues at roughly the same rate. The result is a net loss, year on year.
So it's not that something goes wrong. It's that something that was working stops keeping up.
Exactly. And the rate of that slowdown accelerates significantly after menopause. Here is a specific number from a paper published in the American Journal of Pathology. Skin collagen declines by approximately 1% per year beginning in your 30s. But in the first 5 years after menopause, that loss rate increases sharply, driven by the drop in estrogen. Estrogen has a direct relationship with collagen synthesis. When estrogen drops, the signals that stimulate collagen-producing cells, called fibroblasts, become weaker. Those cells become less active, they produce less, and the deficit accumulates.
And that's what you're seeing when skin looks crepey. You're looking at the deficit.
You are looking at what happens when scaffolding degrades without being adequately replaced. The skin becomes thinner. It loses the internal support structure that kept it firm and smooth. It also loses water retention capacity because collagen itself holds water, so it becomes drier from the inside, not just the outside. And elastin loss means it no longer rebounds properly when compressed.
So when someone puts moisturizer on and nothing much changes,
they are applying something to the epidermis, the very outermost layer, when the problem is in the dermis, which is the deeper structural layer below it. Moisturizer does something. It is not doing nothing, but it cannot replace collagen. It cannot restore elastin. Those changes have to come from a different level entirely.
All right, so what actually works at that level? Let's get into the 3 things.
Thing 1, hydrolyzed collagen peptides taken daily orally as a supplement, I want to address something before I explain the evidence, because a lot of people have heard that taking collagen orally doesn't work because the body just digests it like any other protein. That was the prevailing assumption for a long time, and it turned out to be incorrect, or at least incomplete.
Wait, I've heard that too. That you can't just eat collagen and have it go to your skin, that the body breaks it down.
The body does break it down, but what happens after that breakdown is the key. When collagen is hydrolyzed, meaning it has been broken down into smaller peptide chains before you consume it, those peptides are small enough to be absorbed through the gut wall and enter the bloodstream. And there is now good evidence that specific peptide sequences from hydrolyzed collagen do reach the dermis, where they appear to act as signals, stimulating your own fibroblasts to produce more collagen. Let me give you the specifics. A 2014 double-blind, placebo-controlled trial published in Skin Pharmacology and Physiology, conducted by Proksch and colleagues, followed 69 women aged 35 to 55. Those taking 2.5 grams of hydrolyzed collagen peptides daily for 8 weeks showed a statistically significant improvement in skin elasticity compared to the placebo group. And crucially, the improvements were still measurable 4 weeks after supplementation stopped.
So the effect lasted beyond when they stopped taking it.
Which is consistent with the fibroblast stimulation hypothesis. These women weren't just masking the appearance of the skin, something structural was changing. A second study, Asarin and colleagues, published in the Journal of Cosmetic Dermatology in 2015, found that women taking hydrolyzed collagen peptides showed measurable increases in dermal collagen density on ultrasound imaging. That is a structural change visible under scanning equipment, not a self-reported improvement, an objective, measurable change.
That is not nothing. That's actually significant.
The dose across most of the research is between 2.5 and 10 grams per day. Most commercial hydrolyzed collagen powders provide 10 grams per serving. The form matters. Hydrolyzed collagen, also called collagen peptides, is the absorbed form. Gelatin and bone broth contain collagen, but in a less bioavailable form. They may still be helpful, but the clinical evidence is strongest for the hydrolyzed peptide form specifically.
And vitamin C, I've heard that comes up a lot with collagen.
It comes up because it is genuinely relevant. Vitamin C is a required cofactor in collagen synthesis. Your fibroblasts cannot produce collagen without adequate vitamin C. Most adults in developed countries are not severely deficient, but subclinical insufficiency is more common than people realize, particularly in older adults with lower dietary variety. The practical recommendation: if you are going to supplement with collagen peptides, take them alongside a source of vitamin C. Orange juice, kiwi fruit, bell pepper, any of those. Not because vitamin C alone does the job, but because without adequate vitamin C, the collagen synthesis you are trying to stimulate cannot proceed optimally.
So thing one is hydrolyzed collagen peptides, 10 grams per day with vitamin C, every day, based on actual imaging studies, not guesswork.
Taken consistently, the effects in the studies appeared over 8 to 12 weeks, not days. This is a long-term intervention, not an overnight fix.
I want to pause here for a moment, because I know there are people watching this who have spent real money on creams, on serums, on firming products that promised exactly what we're describing, and they didn't work, and they're now wondering whether anything does. Suki, can you explain in plain terms why those products often don't deliver what they promise?
The skin is a barrier. That is its primary biological function, to stop things getting through, which means that most ingredients in most topical products, no matter how good the active compound is, never actually reach the layer where the work needs to happen. Collagen molecules in a cream, for example, are far too large to penetrate the skin barrier. They sit on the surface. They may temporarily improve the appearance of the skin by filling in surface texture. but they are not reaching the dermis. They are not stimulating fibroblasts. They are not rebuilding scaffolding. There are exceptions to this. There are compounds small enough to penetrate, and thing 2 is one of them.
All right, thing 2, what is it?
Retinol, a derivative of vitamin A applied topically to the skin. This is the most studied active compound in anti-aging skincare, with the largest and most consistent evidence base of any topical treatment available without a prescription. I want to be precise about what retinol actually does, because it is often marketed vaguely as something that renews the skin or reduces signs of aging, and that framing obscures the specific mechanism. Retinol, when absorbed into the skin, and it does penetrate, which is what distinguishes it from most topical ingredients, is converted into retinoic acid. Retinoic acid binds to receptors in your skin cells that regulate gene expression. It literally changes which genes those cells are activating, and among the genes it upregulates are the ones responsible for collagen synthesis.
So it's not masking anything. It is actually turning on the machinery.
It is activating the biological machinery that aged skin has stopped using efficiently. A 2007 study published in the Archives of Dermatology, Coffey and colleagues, applied 0.4% retinol to the skin of participants with a mean age of 87, not 60, 87, and found statistically significant improvements in skin thickness, collagen content, and the density of collagen-producing fibroblasts compared to a placebo control group. I use that study specifically because the participants were elderly, not young adults who still had robust skin biology, people whose skin had already undergone decades of structural decline, and the compound still produced measurable structural changes.
That age point matters, because a lot of people watching this might assume it's too late for this kind of thing.
The evidence does not support that assumption. What it supports is starting sooner rather than later and being consistent. But too late is not the conclusion from the research.
So practically, how does someone actually use retinol? Because I know people have had bad experiences with it. Redness, peeling, irritation.
Those reactions are real, and they are worth taking seriously, because they are the main reason people stop using it before they see any benefit. Here is the protocol supported by dermatological guidance. Start with a low concentration, 0.1 to 0.3%. That is lower than most commercial products lead with. Apply it at night only. Retinol degrades in sunlight, and it makes skin more sensitive to UV. Apply it to clean, dry skin. And I want to emphasize dry, not damp, because applying retinol to damp skin increases absorption to a level that many people's skin cannot tolerate when starting out. Begin with 2 nights per week, not every night. 2 nights per week for the first 4 to 6 weeks while your skin adapts. If there is no significant irritation, increase to every other night. Then, gradually, to nightly. The minimum effective time frame in the research is 12 weeks. Most studies showing structural improvements ran for 6 months to a year. This is not something you try for 2 weeks, see no change, and conclude doesn't work. The changes it produces are real, but they are slow.
And sunscreen in the morning. I assume that becomes non-negotiable if you're using this.
Non-negotiable. Retinol use makes the skin more photosensitive. If you are using retinol at night and going into UV exposure without adequate sun protection during the day, you are partially undoing the work. SPF 30 minimum applied every morning. Not negotiable.
So thing 2, retinol. Start low, twice a week, work up slowly, give it 3 months minimum, and sunscreen every morning. Evidence from trials in elderly participants showing structural changes in the dermis.
That is an accurate summary.
All right, thing 3. And I'll be honest, when you told me what it was before we filmed this, I was surprised, because it's not something most people would connect to their skin.
Resistance exercise, strength training. Resistance exercise, strength training. I know that when people ask about crepey skin, they are not expecting an answer that involves picking up weights. But I want to explain why this is not a tangential recommendation, why this is directly and mechanistically connected to the problem we have been describing. When you perform resistance exercise, body weight movements, light weights, resistance bands, your body responds by releasing a cascade of hormones and growth factors, among them growth hormone and IGF-1, which is a growth hormone derivative. Both of these have direct stimulatory effects on skin fibroblasts. The same cells we have been talking about throughout this video, the cells responsible for collagen and elastin production.
So exercise stimulates the same machinery that we're trying to stimulate with collagen peptides and retinol.
It works through a different pathway, which is why it compounds rather than replaces. Let me give you the specific research. A 2015 study published in the Journal of Applied Physiology, conducted by Crane and colleagues, took sedentary adults over the age of 65 and put one group on a resistance exercise program. After 3 months of regular exercise, skin biopsies showed that markers of skin age had measurably reversed in the exercising group. The composition of the dermis in the exercising participants looked structurally younger than it had before they started. The sedentary group showed no change. I want to be careful about how I describe that. We are not saying exercise makes you look younger overnight. We are saying that at the cellular, structural level, resistance exercise appears to partially reverse the biological markers of skin aging in a measurable, biopsy-confirmed way.
Partially reverse, not just slow down.
In this study, yes, reversed, not merely stabilized. That is a strong finding, and it aligns mechanistically with what we know about the hormonal effects of resistance training.
What does this actually look like for someone who is 65 and hasn't been to a gym in 20 years? Because that's the reality for most people watching this.
It does not require a gym. The stimulus for the hormonal response we are describing is muscular effort, not a specific location or specific equipment, body weight squats, wall push-ups, resistance band rows, seated leg raises with ankle weights, chair-assisted standing movements. These all qualify. The research threshold for meaningful hormonal response is generally 2 sessions per week, roughly 30 minutes each, not 6 days a week, not 2 hours. 2 sessions of 30 minutes at an effort level where the last few repetitions feel genuinely difficult. That last part matters. A walk is not the same thing. The stimulus that triggers the hormonal cascade we are describing requires muscular effort, the kind where the muscles are working close to their capacity. Low-intensity movement has benefits, but the skin-specific effects in the research are associated with resistance training specifically.
So this doesn't have to be complicated. 2 sessions a week, 30 minutes, working hard enough that the last few reps are a genuine effort. And the research shows that this is producing changes inside your skin that neither a cream nor a supplement is reaching.
Because it is operating through your own endocrine system, through the hormones your body produces in response to physical effort. That pathway is something that topical products simply cannot replicate.
I'll say it plainly. If you are not currently doing any resistance exercise and you have concerns about crepey skin, this is the change with the most evidence behind it, and it has benefits far beyond skin: bone density, muscle preservation, blood sugar regulation, fall prevention. The skin benefit is almost a secondary argument.
It is, but for the purposes of this video, it belongs on this list because the mechanism is direct and the evidence is structural.
Let's make this simple. 3 things. Starting today. Thing 1, hydrolyzed collagen peptides. 10 grams a day, taken with vitamin C, every day, based on imaging studies that showed increases in dermal collagen density. Give it 12 weeks before you assess. Thing 2, retinol. At night, start at 0.1 to 0.3%, 2 nights per week to start. Work up slowly over 6 weeks. Sunscreen every morning without exception, based on trials showing structural collagen changes, including in adults in their late 80s. Thing 3, resistance exercise, 2 sessions per week, 30 minutes, effort that is genuinely hard in the final repetitions, based on research showing biopsy-confirmed reversal of skin aging markers in people over 65. These 3 things operate at 3 different levels: internally, through diet and supplementation; at the skin's surface, through a compound that penetrates into the dermis; and systemically, through your own hormonal response to physical effort. They compound each other. Doing all 3 is not 3 times as effective as doing 1. It is likely more than 3 times as effective because each one is opening a different door.
I want to add one practical note. If you choose to pursue retinol, please patch test first a small area on your inner arm or jaw before applying it to your face or neck. Some people have significant sensitivity reactions, and it is much better to discover that on a small patch than across a larger area of skin. And as I mentioned, starting low and going slow is not optional. It is the difference between a protocol that works and one you abandon after a week because of irritation.
And I want to say something about time. I know the temptation is to pick one of these and start when it's more convenient, when you've had a chance to research a bit more, when things settle down. Here is what I'd ask you to consider. The structural loss in your skin that is causing what you see in the mirror today has been accumulating for years. It will continue accumulating. The interventions we have described work by slowing that accumulation and stimulating the body's own repair mechanisms. Those mechanisms work better when they still have something to work with. The follicle analogy from our hair loss video applies here too. A fibroblast that is still present but underactive can be stimulated. A dermis that has thinned significantly is a harder starting point than one that is thinning but hasn't thinned yet. Starting today does not mean perfection today. It means choosing one of these 3 things and beginning. The collagen peptides are the simplest entry point. You add them to a drink, done. 1 decision, 10 grams, every day. Start there if you're not sure where to begin.
Next week, we are going back to the fat loss pillar. If you have been frustrated by belly fat that doesn't shift no matter what you eat or how much you exercise, we are going to explain exactly why that happens after 60 and what the research says about addressing it at the hormonal level. It is not about eating less. It is about something else entirely.
If this video was useful, and I think it was, the like button genuinely helps more people over 60 find this information. It costs you nothing, and it matters more than most people realize. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss next week. See you then.